I'm trying to RuPaul, by the way. RuPaul. Oh, and the Queen.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great night.
Yeah, I'm sitting here bracing. Gordon's going to tell us about the next inclination of RuPaul's Drag Race. Al, are you trying to Al? Has Al been following?
John, can you say a word?
Yes. Hello.
You're good.
The
Okay.
Queen is in.
Now,
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Well, welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. Tonight, we are going to travel to Cuba with 24 of some of the most beautiful men you have ever seen. It makes us want to start to travel again. And in the big finish, the MAGA Million March over the weekend did pretty good. They were only short 995,000 people.
RuPaul is at it again, and this time her drag race will have a Spanish flair. And in the big finish, we'll ponder who's gonna tell the orange guy, start packing your bags.
We are delighted to learn that the Queen knows what a friend of Dorothy is. And by Queen, we mean the Queen. And in the big finish, Oreo builds a Doomsday vault to protect their secret recipe.
So good evening, LGBTQ world. It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. The world's first live daily queer evening news show, Out of the Closet and Into the Headlines on Q News Tonight. Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is an unedited live LGBTQ evening news show. Whatever happens, you're going to see it. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ community from South Florida, America, and across our world. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome guest anchor Gordon Woodworth III. They works for a nonprofit here in the gayest place on planet Earth, and as a notary, he is helping the LGBTQ community get legally married for free. Welcome, Gordon.
Thanks, Al. If you're getting your affairs in order because you're worried about your civil rights or thinking about getting married, email me at queernotary@gmail.com. If you're in the state of Florida, I can help you.
You know, when you said affairs, I was thinking of something completely different. Next up, let's welcome guest anchor John Buckley. He is Vice President and Program Director at Unity Coalition and a member of the infamous and famous House of Lords. John created the Unity Coalition Initiative, Kioba, a social mixer, safe space, and community revelation, empowering, uniting, and uplifting men of color. Well, tonight good evening, John.
Good evening, Al.
Tonight we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. We begin by queering up South Florida. Save the dates, Outshine LGBTQ Film Festival, Fort Lauderdale Virtual Edition, December 3rd through 6th. Watch this. Happening Out Television and Queer News Tonight are the digital television sponsors of some of the nation's most important charity and LGBTQ events. We are pleased to announce we will sponsor the 12th edition of the Outshine LGBTQ Film Festival Fort Lauderdale. It's a biannual film festival whose mission is to unite the community through social events and LGBTQ media that inspire, entertain, and educate audiences. Outshine is going virtual December 3rd through the 6th, building on the success of its Miami-based virtual film festival held online earlier this year, which Happening Out Television Network served as their digital television sponsor. The Fort Lauderdale edition is presented by Gilead Sciences and Broward County and will showcase 21 world-class contemplative, comedic, and creative films from 11 countries, with several making their U.S. debuts during the streaming festival. Happening Out Television Network will continue to cover the Outshine LGBTQ Film Festival Fort Lauderdale Virtual Edition in the upcoming weeks across all of our show platforms.
I'm so excited to see that this is going digital. I know that it's not like great because we'd rather do it in person, but having it be digital makes it so much more accessible to people. And I also am just glad to see more representation. Hopefully more representation will happen in the mainstream media as well.
I agree, Gordon. Outshine Film Festival is always a great community partner, and what better way to spotlight and put us out there so that we are represented equally and fairly.
Well, and also exciting in the coming weeks leading up to and during the film festival, we will interview live many of the directors and the stars of many of these films, regardless of where they are in the world. So it gives you the opportunity to participate in an LGBTQ film festival unlike you've ever been able to do before. Quite exciting. Next, we're going to queer up entertainment. The Queen refers to gay people as friends of Dorothy, according to The Crown. Simultaneously, the campiest and most painfully heterosexual of Netflix's vast catalog, The Crown, takes an unexpected detour in its new 4th season, imagining the Queen speculating on the sexuality of a family friend. Episode 7 sees the Queen listen as her sister, Princess Margaret, played by Helena Bonham Carter, mourns a love interest joining the priesthood. The Queen says about the man in question, Derek Dazzle Jennings, the real character, played by Tom Burke, quote, "Well, that's the second reason he was never the right man, or you were right for him, as he is a friend of Dorothy," end quote. What does friend of Dorothy mean? The phrase dates back to at least the Second World War in Britain, when LGBTQ was illegal. Asking if somebody was a friend of Dorothy was a discreet way for gay men to find out if they were in good company. Its exact origins are unclear, though most agree it's a reference to the iconic Wizard of Oz character played by Judy Garland. Both Dorothy and Garland became seminal gay icons after the film's release, with the actor a popular face in queer bars. In The Crown, it's suggested that Derek Jennings being gay was a widely known secret among royal circles.
I'm so excited about this. I love The Crown. I've said it on this show before. I'm a self-described Anglophile and I'm a Druid, so I'm glad to see that this is coming up in the show. I can't wait to watch it. But also it's exciting because it's, again, just some more queer history being thrown out there. Always throw Judy's name out there. She's the reason Stonewall happened. Stonewall happened the day Judy Garland died.
I definitely love Crown. I'll be watching with Crown Royale. Some ice.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to seeing this season.
You know, it's interesting to me, the thought, and this has been reported in other circles before it was dramatized in The Crown, that's how Queen Elizabeth has referred to gay people still to this date as friends of Dorothy. It's fascinating in our history.
Well, the Queen doesn't change. Right. Next in Queer Up Entertainment, Drag Race unveils yet another spin-off, with RuPaul making way for a brand new host. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the refreshing waters of Darien Lake, comes another Drag Race spin-off. Hot on the heels of the Holland and UK editions, Drag Race Spain will be the third European entry in the franchise. Like Holland and Canada before it, the new series will become a brand new host and judging panel who will be revealed in the months to come. Fans in the US, UK, and all around the world will be able to watch on WOW Presents Plus with English, Spanish, and Portuguese subtitles on the same day as episodes air in the Spanish streamer Atresmedia Player Premium. Drag Race Spain will be produced by Atresmedia TV in collaboration with Buendia Studios and executive produced by World of Wonder. Randy Barbado, Fenton Bailey, and Tom Campbell are executive producers. Drag Race Spain comes as franchise shows no signs of slowing down. It comes as fans prepare for an already bumper year of back-to-back eleganza. The BBC has confirmed that Drag Race UK Season 2 will air early in 2021, with production having resumed in November following a length mid-season break caused by the pandemic. A third UK season will follow later in the year, while in the US, Season 13 and All Stars 6 are both in the can. Drag Race Holland recently finished its first run, with Envy Peru taking the crown, while earlier this year, Priyanka became the first Canadian winner of the franchise. In June, they said 3 or 4 international versions were in the works, meaning after Holland and Spain, there's at least one more to come.
What do you think, John?
No tea, no shade. I don't know. The girls just don't do it for me.
Oh, we're talking about RuPaul's Drag Race here, and it's the most successful LGBTQ franchise in history. I think it's interesting. Everybody knows my long history with RuPaul's and RuPaul's Drag Race. It seems to have no signs of slowing. I remember being told in 2012, it's done. We're all finished. It's done. Nobody likes it anymore. And now we're sitting here on the verge of 2021, and there's franchising going on all over the planet. Somebody likes it.
Well, it seems like there's still not going to be any trans people on the show, which is really unfortunate. So I'll keep watching the Boulet Brothers all day long for that reason. But I do still follow RuPaul's Drag Race just because it's kind of the gay Super Bowl. And I followed Drag Race Holland through a wonderful podcast called Get Over Horde. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Yeah. Did you just commandeer this story? Because that's kind of what it just sounded like.
Right. Next, we queer up gay culture. 6 ways to think about hooking up safely in the time of pandemic. To hook up or not to hook up? That is the question for many a happy homo during the international pandemic. But this week's news from the University of Miami study that suggests COVID-19 can be transmitted sexually brings us to a pause. Back in April, Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Disease, was asked what he would say to single people, tired of social isolation and ready to mingle, who wanted to hook up with someone via apps like Grindr or Tinder. Fauci replied, and quote, "You know, that's tough. It's what's called relative risk. If you're willing to take a risk and you know everybody has their own tolerance for risk, you could figure out if you want to meet up somebody," end quote, end quote. Depending on where you live, restrictions may be lifting and might be considering getting yourself back out there more, whether via app or an open-air bar or queer outdoor gathering spot where everyone is wearing masks. In any case, if you are thinking of dating again, either virtually or in real life, now could be a good time to reset and refresh your approach to meeting guys. The CDC and sexual health professional recommendations during COVID pandemic. 1, know your HIV status, and screening should be every 3 to 6 months. 2, revamp your dating app profile. It's time to refresh your photos to a COVID world. Reflect your desires safely. Don't use wording like clean and bug-free, because it's hurtful for both COVID and HIV and fuels stigma and discrimination. 3, socially distant dating. Still not sure about meeting others in person? Try, for example, a movie night in Zoom and watch the same movie. 4, socially distant sex. Not everyone is thrilled by the idea of less intimate sexual encounters, But when even the city of New York suggests exploring the joys of glory holes, we know we're living in different times. Online sexual encounters can be interesting and rewarding. Explore the new world we're living in. 5, don't date if you're feeling unwell. In the time of COVID, don't put other people at risk. 6, let's talk about sex, baby. Don't be afraid to talk about sex. As gay guys, we are empowered to talk about the things we like doing without shame and embarrassment. That's one of the many things that make liking guys so awesome. Whatever you decide, wear a mask and wear a condom.
You know, in that report, it's interesting to me in making the decision whether you're going to get out there. There's two big issues. The University of Miami's new study is suggesting in its first version, another version of the study is ongoing right now, that sexual contact spreads COVID-19 or can spread COVID-19. That is absolutely the justification of wearing a condom until we have definitive, and it's likely we're going to find out it's true. And in terms of the respiratory droplets, you have to wear a mask. So in both instances, in the world we're living in right now, your last sentence, John, was the most important. Wear a mask and wear a condom.
I feel I'm obligated at this point to point out that there's also such a thing as flavored condoms if you want to have oral sex. There's dental dams if you like oral sex or you like eating ass. And there's insertable condoms if you have sex with a male and you don't want him to wear a condom. You can wear a condom. They're everywhere. You can get them at the Department of Health. You can get them in South Florida at local charities like AHF and Broward House. Go around, get them, and use them, and wear a mask. And know your HIV status, and get tested every 3 months.
All jokes aside, if we all know we like sex, and why not be protected? Protect yourselves, protect others, and most importantly, protect your life. You know, nowadays, this is very real, it's very relevant, so don't make a stupid decision based on a temporary feeling.
Absolutely. No more excuses. All right, next up, let's queer up entertainment. Republicans are saying Harry Styles isn't man enough on Twitter, and all hell has broken loose online. Black conservative pundit Candace Owens said something on social media. While this may not seem like an unusual turn of events, this time she managed to pull off a rarely performed feat. She has managed to anger most of the internet after she demeaned pop star Harry Styles on Twitter. At Queer News Tonight, we previously reported that Harry Styles was the first man to appear on the cover solo of Vogue, and he was in a Gucci dress. Owens took umbrance to Styles wearing a dress along with more traditionally masculine clothing in the Vogue photo shoot. In between rants about Antifa and non-existent voter fraud, Owens took a swipe at Styles, tweeting that it's time to, quote, bring back manly men, along with a link to the article. She added in the tweet, there is no society that can survive without strong men. The East knows this. In the West, the steady feminization of our men at the same time that Marxism is being taught to our children is not a coincidence. It is an outright attack. End of tweet. After the that blowback started, other conservatives started defending Owens, and she took to Twitter to defiantly explain herself. Candace tweeted, quote, in the tweet, since I'm trending, I'd like to clarify what I meant when I said bring back manly men. I meant bring back manly men. Terms like toxic masculinity were created by toxic females. Real women don't do fake feminism. Sorry, I'm not sorry. End of tweet. And we laugh at just how stupid some conservatives really are.
That made her real upset, that snowflake. Next we queer up the world. The European Union launches LGBTQ protection strategy as homophobia rises in the East. The European Union's Executive Commission launched its first strategy to protect the rights of LGBTQ people this week, a challenge to right-wing governments in Poland and Hungary that have become increasingly homophobic in the past year. The Commission said LGBTQ people were facing growing discrimination in Europe, even as most people in the bloc were becoming more accepting of gay rights. EU Vice President Vera Jourova said, quote, "We will defend the rights of LGBT people against those who now have more and more appetite to attack them from this ideological point of view. This belongs to the authoritarian playbook and does not have a place in the EU," unquote. The Commission launched its strategy, its LGBTIQ equality strategy, defining the term as, quote, "lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, non-binary, intersex, and queer. It's 2020 and hate and discrimination of people from sexual minorities really does not belong in Europe," unquote.
And next, we queer up travel. 24 photos of half-naked Cuban men by Kevin Slack. Social media was lit afire this week as Kevin Slack released photos about Cuba. Surveys show that one of the largest spending items for the LGBT community is travel, and the new pictures excited the gay community to get back into the world. But interestingly, the 24 photos are of half-naked Cuban men. They seem to be personal invitations to the American LGBTQ community. As flights begin again this month to the exotic island, we're excited to be reminded why we left half of our hearts in Havana. Queer News Tonight anchor Al Ferguson coordinated the first LGBTQ cruise in history to the island, and our show organized the American delegation to last year's first ever Havana Pride. Kevin Slack's beautiful photos remind us it's time to go back.
Well, that's our queer headlines for today. Next, let's catch up on the LGBTQ news surrounding COVID-19 with our special segment called Quarantine Quickies. In Quarantine Quickies, LGBTQ community, our Gayborhoods, and what's next in COVID-19? Are we going to be responsible? This week, America has reached a crisis point in pandemic. The president said the media would stop talking about COVID-19 the day after the election. Instead, the last 2 weeks have been the worst of 2020, with more than 1 million new infections in the last week alone, and the prospect of political fighting in Washington for presidential transition makes the outlook of the next 63 days terrifying. Health officials continue to warn the same alarms, including masks, social distancing, hand washing, and other mitigation recommendations. Here at Queer News Tonight, we have literally run hundreds of stories and segments on COVID-19. But as President-elect Biden suggests, we are heading into the dark winter. So we ask, what's next for the LGBTQ community and our Gayborhoods? Our community knows that we are significantly ignoring the recommendations with our bathhouses, growing events, opening of bars and restaurants, and more. The question now for the LGBTQ community will be, are we going to be responsible, or are we just going to accept the consequences of this pandemic?
I'm hoping that we're going to stop doing things like having circuit parties where there's a lot of people in one room. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think that the gay community is kind of like a small representation of what's going on in America as a whole. If we're ignoring it, we're not the only ones, and it's really a problem. At the end of the day, we can debate what we should do in our community, and we should be doing better, but it should be up to our leaders to be directing a clear message, and there should be clear rules and regulations going on right now to mitigate the effects of COVID-19, and there just aren't.
I agree as well, Gordon. I mean, we know we get tired of sitting in the house, and we all want to go out and we want to be around each other, but at the end of the day, you have to remember this is very real. Unfortunately, people don't realize that until it hits home. You know, you go out, you have a great night of fun, you're around people, you're exposing yourself, you don't have on a mask, you're being careless. Next thing you know, you're waking up, you have a fever, your body aches, you feel like you're on your deathbed, and now you've contracted something that could potentially kill you. Was it really worth it?
Well, 2020 is a year of catch-22s. In our Gayborhoods and our LGBT businesses, LGBTQ businesses, our entertainers, our drag queens, etc. It's catch-22 because are they going to survive? We understand they have to have business to survive, but they can't. That's the issue here, which is the catch-22. Washington did not do, Mitch McConnell did not do an extension of a stimulus package that would provide a safety net to save these people, employers, employees, in this time of pandemic. We didn't cause this, and that's why we needed great leadership, which we haven't had. It is catch-22. Now we've got to decide, are we going to accept the consequences, or are we going to demand some kind of clarity in our rules and some kind of support as a safety net to get us through this until we have vaccine and literally save our society? The last week indicates so far we're not going to do that. That is it for our COVID-19 news that we wanted to discuss tonight. We also did the reporting of COVID cases. Next, we report that Happening Out Television Network helps support our LGBTQ community, and as an example is Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set in supporting that partnership. The network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world, with more than 30,000 watching every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's totally live. We encourage you to tune in. Our campaign of sponsorship proudly supports Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Watch this.
This is Mo Laredo, local law enforcement in South Florida, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible.
Finally, we thank our Queer News Tonight's hotel sponsor, Best Western I-95 Fort Lauderdale. This is the closest and best choice to the famous Wilton Drive, and our host and guests stay at this LGBTQ alley partner. We encourage you to stay here when visiting South Florida.
Well, we're going to end tonight's broadcast with the big finish. Today's silly, or news that entertains our LGBTQ community. First up in the big finish, Oreo has built a Doomsday vault just to protect the cookie recipe.
It's just like the Twinkie vaults that you used to see way back when. Now it's Oreos.
I mean, who doesn't love an Oreo, though?
Who doesn't? I love the cookie. I just can't eat the cookie.
They're unintentionally vegan. That's the thing that's scary about them. They're going to come out with a gluten-free version, but the regular ones are already vegan, and I'm not sure that was on purpose.
Yeah, all right. In the big finish, MAGA March, expected to draw millions of attendees, missed the target by only 995,000.
I'm glad that no one's talking about this but us, because this whole weekend I have been following it. And I don't ever watch cable news, but I flip between CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all of them. No one was talking about this because nobody cares. The election has been decided. It's already done deal. It was a fair and free election. Joe Biden won, and now you can cry about it and you can die mad about it.
Pretty much. That sums it up.
Pretty much.
Pack your bag.
You know, when I watched the MAGA March for about 7 minutes this weekend, it reminded me of 1 Million Moms, the uber anti-LGBT organization that is 1 Million Moms is made up of 7 old white men. It reminds me of the exact same thing. In the big finish, who is going to tell him Republicans are shy from asking Trump to concede? Watch this.
Senator, have you congratulated Vice President Biden yet?
No.
Why not?
Surprise, surprise, Republican senators are spineless.
Someone needs to tweet him, get out.
Get out. We're done with this. We're done with you forever, forever.
That's it for today's news for the LGBTQ community and on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news. We are the only television live video news that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of Gordon Woodworth III and John Buckley, we will see you daily and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, America.
Next.